a brand new episode of Comics Corner, presented by Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Donnie. Well, one of my co-hosts. Steven is still recuperating, and he better be on the mend soon because muffins don't bake themselves. And the Wayne Manor upkeep is way too much for my liking, so get well and get back at it there, Alfred. But Donnie is here with me to continue our look at the 9-part DC December event, Endless Winter. And this week we will be doing parts 4 through 6, which comprise of an issue of Aquaman, Justice League, and a Teen Titans special. Before that, we will, first of all, Donnie, how are you? How's things going?
Through snow and sleet and freezing rain comes the man with Green Lantern on the brain. It's the Emerald Enthusiast, here to bring you Endless Winter.
Well, awesome. Yeah, great. And your background suggests that the Endless Winter is indeed continuing. But why don't we, you said you wanted to bring up some unfortunate news, but noteworthy.
Yes, I did want to just call attention to something that a lot of comic book readers know. Of course, Star Wars is well represented in comics. It's not just, movies and TV. And Jeremy Bulloch, who was the original actor to portray Boba Fett, passed away this week. And, it's kind of ironic timing since Boba has just come back on The Mandalorian in the last couple of episodes. But just want to say rest in peace to him. I was a kid who enjoyed Star Wars a lot, the extended universe as well. And I remember actually seeing Boba Fett, the animated short that started before Empire Strikes Back, and then seeing Boba in live action. And it's been great to see the character come back. And looking online and seeing a lot of people with their convention photos of Jeremy Bulloch, I just, again, want to say rest in peace from all the Star Wars fans across the globe.
Indeed. And you're right. The timing is a little bit, weird given the resurgence of the character. So definitely may he rest well wherever he's looking down upon the Star Wars fandom. And just to touch on Star Wars, I like to think that you and I are of the Star Wars fan ilk that appreciates all 9 installments, to varying degrees, of course, as any film.
11 if you want to count, Rogue One and Solo, the two side movies.
Yes. That's true. Yes, indeed. So just wanted to throw that out, and to take to circle this back all around to DC, which is the main topic today. The current iteration of Boba Fett is played by a DC veteran, if you will.
Yes.
In the fact that the actor played. Plays Aquaman's father currently in Aquaman, and he played a very important Green Lantern Corps member.
He played Abin Sur.
Yeah, I wanted to set it up for you since you're the Green Lantern savant. So it's kind of cool that he is at the forefront, and he's had his hands in both franchises. And we won't spoil The Mandalorian for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, but
go do it. If you haven't done it already, go do it.
Look, here's what I'll say, and then we'll finally move on to actual comic stuff. But for any Star Wars fan that maybe hasn't been happy with the recent output, from Disney, I can't relate, but there are those out there, and all I'll say is, this episode of The Mandalorian, I think, will make you happy. And that's all I'll say in that regard, because I won't spoil any more of that. But if you haven't watched Season 2 or the last episode, go do that, and then watch this video, and then we'll do that, and
Right.
then
Yeah. Finish up with us first, then you can go
I
watch
was going to say pause the video, but this video isn't going to spoil that. So watch the video, then go do what you do.
Yeah.
But all right.
I just want to say, and I'll put this online. The last episode of The Mandalorian is my favorite episode of any TV show ever.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm an old guy, and I've watched more than my share of nerdy TV before.
Right.
But there is a series of events in that show that is just those events are mind-boggling. So go watch that show.
Now here's my question, because you've said in the past that the Flash television series, the 90s television series, was so important for you to watch that you would forego, going on a Friday night and possibly, dating a woman to watch that show. So, is the last episode of The Mandalorian, of this season, that kind of television where if you had a date, you'd postpone it to watch that show?
Only because I could ask my wife to do that and she would understand.
Well, no, let's pretend that this was back in the day when your wife wasn't your wife.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, this was just mind-blowing television. And again, I don't want to give anything away because someone who hasn't seen it before, I don't want to spoil things. But if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, and make sure that you watch the preceding episodes, of course, because you don't want to be confused about what's happening. But it's just, again, it's amazing. So,
and folks, just to kind of clarify, I'm speaking for myself. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not one of those. Like, I didn't have Star Wars bed sheets.
I did.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean, Steven has Superman bed sheets still.
Also had Batman bed sheets.
Yeah, well, I may or may not. Well, actually,
in college. So
no, well, now I have Toronto Maple Leaf bed sheets, and then this is why I go to sleep depressed every night. But anyway, that's a whole other ballgame. But no, so I'm not one of those ones that gets obsessed of every little minute detail. I can just I'll watch a movie. Like I know the saga and everything, but what my perception is, I'll watch a movie. If I like it, great. If I don't, I'll just wait till the next one and give the next one a shot. That's where I am with Star Wars. So, I'm a fan, but I'm not like DC is where I get where my emotions get put through the ringer in terms of whether it's good or not, and as if I have a stake in DC Comics, and it pains me to those levels. But so that's where we're coming from. But we both agree that you should definitely watch the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
All right. So now, in terms of our what have you read, or what are we reading, whatever it's called, whatever Stephen calls it. See, this is what happens when you're not here, Stephen. I mangle the names of the segments, so get well soon and get your butt back on here. But what have you been reading, Donnie?
So I just want to call attention to a couple of things. Number one, I had one of my friends on Twitter this week messaged me and said, can you explain some old pieces of this Green Lantern story? And this is Guy Gardner Warrior. Can you see this with the background or not?
I can't. It's fading into the background, so we may have to. We may have to end your winter in terms of the background.
Okay.
Because we won't be able to see the comic otherwise.
Okay. So should we pause it while I do that? Can you pause the recording?
I don't think I can. I would have to stop it.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, Guy Gardner Warrior. This was issue number 21. I had one of my friends, again, he asked, can you explain some things to me? So I explained that. I also want to say The Walking Dead is now being reprinted in color. And I have been reading that again from issue 1. And that's been just amazing. So what have you been reading, sir?
Well, I mean, this is going to be the second week in a row where I take it to the Marvel side of the street.
Okay.
Which technically, let's see, DC is now based out of, in California, I believe, Los Angeles, I think they are now. And Marvel's still in New York. I mean, the comic publishing side of it. So I'm taking it to the other side, a different area of the States. But technically, the sidewalk analogy doesn't work anymore because they're so far apart. But I've been reading. There's a storyline going on right now in the Amazing Spider-Man title, and it's called The Last Rites.
Okay.
Or is it Last Rites or Last Remains? One of the, you know me with titles, I get them mangled. So it's either Last Rites or Last Remains, one of the two. But anyway, it brings back, or it's brought back a very important character to the Spider-Man mythos that we had thought was gone, and he is putting Peter Parker through some torment. And here, without spoiling the story, what I will say is, I'll relate it to how much I'm liking it by saying the following. In terms of wow factor, emotion, intensity, and just overall entertainment, it's up there for me with two titles from DC that I love, which are Batman Hush and Green Lantern Rebirth. So I mean, when I say Rebirth, I mean when they brought Hal Jordan back.
Right, not the company-wide Rebirth, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, in my opinion, this storyline is up there with those two. So, and it's not over yet, but that's where we are. So, I would recommend going back and tracking down the beginning of the arc, which I believe started in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 50. So, go back, and I think the latest one was 54. 54, 55, somewhere along those lines. So it's not, you're not knee deep in it that you can't catch up. And you know, the beautiful thing is, if you can't get physical copies at your comic shop, there's always Comixology, and it won't be sold out there. You can just click and get caught up. And
yeah, get your digital comics. Yeah,
and I recommend that you do that because I think it's a great story. So that's what I've been reading. And now, to review what we've actually been reading, let's go to the parts 4 through 6 of Endless Winter.
All right, and by the way, you're 2 for 2.
I'm cute. I would hope somebody's keeping track of when I get it right. Usually they only tell me when I get it wrong. All right, so which issues were they, and where are we starting? And give us a little bit of it. Oh, actually, wait a minute. No. I forgot a new segment.
Okay.
See, so I got the name right, but I'm see, Stephen, it's all your fault. Get better. You know, Alfred was fired for things worse than this.
He did give us some muffins though this week, some delicious chocolate muffins.
They were well, to be fair, they were gifts, and I want the real thing. Damn it! Next week, one of us is going to have to review muffin baking 101 because Stephen hasn't made them yet. But unless that comes with pictures, I ain't reviewing it, so we'll leave it to Donnie.
I'm not sure if he mailed muffins from England that by the time they got to the States or Canada, they would taste all like or good.
I don't think they taste so good. But, you know, if Jim Lee wants to draw a Baking Muffins 101 with his artwork, then I might read it. But, you know, until then, we'll have to just wait.
You know, there actually is a recipe out there. It's Larfleeze Christmas cookies, if you ever want to try them, yes.
Well, then I'll send it over to Stephen and, you know. Have him get ready and studying that and perfecting that. But news-wise, in terms of comics, DC has released their solicitations for books shipping in March. And March is, so in January and February we have Future State, which Donnie, myself, and hopefully Stephen will be covering. I mean, a good portion of the issues anyway, between the three of us. But in March, a brand new era for DC Comics begins, and that era is known as Infinite Frontier. Now, to start off Infinite Frontier, we are getting a Infinite Frontier number 0. And in that issue is basically going to function much like how DC Rebirth number 1 functioned. Way back when the line-wide Rebirth initiative was happening. It's got a host of creators attached to it, and I'm just going to run the names of the creators for you.
All right.
And basically,
and this is big time, by the way. I've read this list.
Essentially, it's a 64-page comic. And it's going to have several stories featuring, all your main favorites, and basically setting the table for where each individual creator will be taking them in their various monthly books. So that's the gist of what we're getting with this mammoth one-shot. But here's the list of creators: Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, Joshua Williamson, Jeffrey Thorne, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Brian Michael Bendis, Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad, Joel Jones, and Tim Sheridan. Also, and I saved one specifically for last, Jeff Johns. And the reason I saved it for last, because I want to dispel a really idiotic rumor or a theory, or I don't know what you want to call it, tinfoil hat BS. But there's a segment of DC fandom, and I use the word DC fandom very loosely, that suggests that Jeff Johns was fired from DC Comics and banned from writing for DC Comics, considering his name is on this book, and considering that we've got a Batman Earth 1 Volume 3 graphic novel coming out in June, written by Jeff Johns, and considering that he is the executive producer and showrunner on Stargirl, I suggest that rumor is about as useful as toilet paper when it's flushed down the toilet. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So, as I said, that's going to set the table, and that is a one hell of a
lineup, yeah,
a lineup of writers, and the artists are all top notch as well. I mean, there's even more artists than there seems to be writers. I'll just name a couple of them. Howard Porter, Joel Jones, Jorge Jimenez, just because I like saying Jorge, so I thought I'd point that out. David Marquez, Jamal Eagle, Dexter Soy. A friend of mine likes Dexter Soy, so I thought I'd throw that one out. Alex Maleev, who did some great work on Daredevil back in the day with Brian Michael Bendis. So a whole, and there's so many more. So there's a bunch. Of interest to Green Lantern fans, Donnie, is that there's going to be stories featuring Jade, as well as Alan Scott, and then Jeffrey Thorne is going to be doing his thing with John Stewart.
Yes.
So
and of course, yes.
Plenty of Green Lantern representation.
I'm very happy to see Jade back, by the way. She is one of my favorite characters. She's definitely in my top 10. Probably my favorite female Green Lantern, and I am really happy to see her and Alan back. And of course, we have heard the controversy with Jeffrey Thorne, but I'm going to give this a chance. I think there's a lot of good things that could come out of this event, and hopefully, everything works out. I have seen the number of characters that they're going to use, and I do believe that there are possibilities with this event. Now,
let me just speak to a couple of things.
Okay.
Well, first the question for you, then I'll speak to Jeffrey Thorne.
Okay.
So the question I have for you is twofold. We know we're getting a Jade story.
Yes.
Right? And we know we're getting an Alan Scott story.
Some form, yes.
What is and one of the stories that Jeff Johns is writing is a Stargirl story. All that being said, what are the chances that we get eventually, because they're not on the solicits in March, but eventually, down the line here, what are the chances we get a Stargirl story with Jade as a part of it, and a JSA story with Alan Scott as part of the team?
Those two titles might well cross over, and yes, and so yeah, I would love to see that, and we will Also, before we go any further, we will be covering Jade as we go through Volume 3 on the Emerald Echo podcast, and that's available on iTunes and
Yes,
Podbean.
indeed it is, yeah.
Shameless plug number 1.
That's right. We're going to take a drink every time Donnie does a water, by the way.
Yes, water.
Water, yeah,
yes.
Water. Don't want to get drunk at 2:15 p.m. But so yeah, they've been teasing a JSA book since Rebirth, the Rebirth Initiative, and with the combined factors of Stargirl having her own show, and giving us a version of the JSA there, and then the Black Adam film, bringing the JSA to film. To me, it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
Yeah, and we will definitely get into Black Adam here. He features prominently in this story, and I believe that probably has to do with the film coming up, and let's call it what it is, featuring The Rock, one of the most notable,
one of the most electrifying men in entertainment.
Exactly, one of the most notable figures in the world. So of entertainment.
Right, and so there's that. Now on to the Jeffrey Thorne controversy, and I put that in quotations because it is what it is.
Yes.
Look, he in the past has made some tweets that suggest that he's not very fond of Hal Jordan. Now, in my estimation, it seems pretty clear from Future State and just basing off his comments that the Green Lantern focused, at least in his book, like the star, it may be a core book, we're not sure, but the star of the show, for lack of a better phrasing, will be Jon Stewart. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that he doesn't use Hal Jordan at all in this particular book. So the guy doesn't like Hal Jordan. He's entitled to do that. He's entitled to speak his mind regarding his dislike of Hal Jordan on his social media platforms. Just as I'm allowed to say on any platform that I have that I think George Clooney was a terrible Batman and Batman and Robin was a huge pile of cow dung.
I'm glad you kept that PG. Proud of you.
It's fine. I'm allowed to say that. If somebody I know one person, but if somebody likes that film and thinks George Clooney was a good Batman, good for you. Watch it on a loop. I'm happy for you. But I can voice my displeasure on my platforms. Just like any other, like there are Lantern fans that don't like certain Lanterns, be them Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz. There are people that don't like the entire concept of Far Sector,
right?
And they say as much on their social media and on their vidcasts and podcasts. So just because Jeffrey Thorne is a writer on a Green Lantern book that probably won't feature Hal Jordan, he's not allowed to say that. To me, that seems hypocritical of fandom.
Well, let me say this. Yes, and some of these comments that he has made about Hal Jordan, they are fairly recent. They are last year.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing DC probably had an idea that this was going to get uncovered and would come to the surface. Yeah. So, yes, when you make a number of statements about a very popular character, there will be some backlash.
Right.
But again, he's not writing a story that's specifically geared toward Hal Jordan, and who's to say that he won't give us our best, that he won't give us his best effort anyway? Because I know I would. The only Green Lantern character I dislike that I can think of is Nort. But if for whatever reason Jim Lee called me up and said, "Hey, Emerald Enthusiast, we need a Nort story," it would be the best story I could possibly write. So
Yeah.
I'm going to wait and judge Jeffrey Thorne's output on its own merits.
If Jim Lee has your number, how come I don't? That's my question. But my point is, he's even said, and people seem to overlook this because it doesn't fit their narrative. He says that if I was to write Hal Jordan throughout the course of my run, I would write him as DC expects Hal Jordan to be and to behave. And I wouldn't do him any disservice just because of my personal feelings. He said that as much. Right. And that seems to be ignored. So it's
he still has editorial to deal with,
I don't know why this is, this is not there are actual real life controversies to get our panties worked up in a bunch over. This ain't one of them. Because the writer has stated, if I use Hal Jordan, I will treat him with respect and the way DC expects him to be treated. Once I read that, end of story.
And again, I want to say that he's focusing on Jon Stewart here, which I don't have a problem with. John's also one of my favorite characters. And it doesn't seem like for a while Hal Jordan's going to be a focus. And that's okay. Hal has gone away for different periods in the past, and he always comes back because, again, he's the tentpole of Green Lantern. We get that. He'll come back
eventually, yeah.
Sure. Sure.
So, and just before we move away from Jeffrey Thorne, the March solicitations do not feature his Green Lantern book. So I took to Twitter and I tweeted him and I asked him, I'm assuming that since we didn't see your Green Lantern book in the March solicitations, is it fair to say that it's coming out in April? And he said yes. And I said, great, looking forward to it. He said, me too. So
yes, it's
coming in April. And I meant what I said. I am looking forward to it, despite the fact that he doesn't like Hal Jordan. That really, it's his prerogative. Go for it.
Right.
Now, just to cover a couple of the solicitations that I'm interested in.
Okay.
Or books that I will be reading. And there's one that we will probably read, Donnie, you and I, and I think it'd be well, we're going to be reading the Green Lantern one.
Right.
That's like brushing our teeth in the morning, an automatic. Automatic. Well, at least I brush my teeth in the morning, and I'm assuming you do as well. I don't know about some people, but we do.
A couple of times a day, yeah.
Yeah. So Green Lantern notwithstanding, because we're going to read that. I'm definitely going to read Infinite. Wait, let me get before I mangle it. Before I start mangling it, Infinite Frontier. Eventually, I'll call it Infinite New Crisis Frontier, but until now, it's. But I'm going to be getting that obviously because it's the starting point. So you kind of have to. One that I think we are also going to read, and I think would be a perfect time to start doing, because you and I have talked as well in conjunction with Stephen, that we would do some, we'd focus the podcasts on our specific, looking back at the previous runs, the histories of, the Flash and Green Lantern, respectively.
Right.
Both podcasts, which you can find on iTunes and Podbean.
And that's the Multiverse Musings podcast network.
Yes, Emerald Echo, a Green Lantern podcast, and the Flash with two mics, to be more specific. Wait, where's the water? Here we go. So there's that one. But I would venture to suggest to you, Donnie, on air, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
Because that's what I do here. But since we do have a Flash podcast, and since we said we were going to handle some of the newer Green Lantern and Flash stuff on Comics Corner on this very vidcast, I suggest that in addition to Jeffrey Thorne's run, covering it here on Comics Corner, we also cover the Flash.
Oh, I was definitely going to get the Flash. Yeah.
So, and for the purpose of knowing what we're talking about, it's the new creative team begins with the Flash 768, and the creative team is Jeremy Adams is writing, and Brendan Peterson is drawing. Now, from what I understand, according to the solicits, Jeremy Adams was a writer on Supernatural, the TV show. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it's a show I'm a fan of, so cool. And basically what it says is the retirement of Wally West begins.
Yeah, no, that I've heard. That'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Basically, what happens is he wants to live his life, be a family man, and if you've read Dark Knight's Death Metal, you know how that might be possible. But the current Flash, which is Barry Allen, really needs him. So apparently, after the fallout from Infinite Frontier number 0, Barry and Wally West must confront the past by way of a Justice League led by Green Arrow. So what the writer has said is that this book will determine who carries the mantle of the Flash going forward in the title.
Mm-hmm.
So, Donnie, when it says that Wally is retiring, if he was actually going to retire, wouldn't that make this story pointless?
Again, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
When I say that, it's not a knock on the story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Wally is going to stay. By the end of this, I don't think Wally's going to be retired.
By the end, you think that it won't even stick to the end of the story?
No. Okay. I don't think they're going to take that character off the table. Either him and Barry are going to be called, one of the two is going to take the moniker The Flash and lead this title. But if it is Barry, which I suspect it will be because of the television series and the movie, I think Wally will basically pick up another moniker, another speedster-related moniker.
That's an interesting theory, yeah.
And possibly either be a part of this title, but not as the main Flash, or spin off into his own book. That's just my...
Okay.
I think it would be a mistake for them to take Wally off the table completely.
Wally's an extremely popular character, so yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm fascinated by the premise, and the cover art. It looks fantastic. I mean, it looks brilliant. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna be covering that. Is basically what we're saying.
And I do want to say, I like these small events like what we're seeing here with Endless Winter, what I think Future State is going to be. So this may be kind of the future of DC, is these smaller events that are easier to pick up.
It's a smart play.
Yeah.
Now, another book that I'm intrigued by, and I know you were a little bit displeased by, at least based off your Twitter interactions. But I'm going to pick it up because I'm curious, and that is Justice League number 59. It's got Brian Michael Bendis writing, and David excuse me for mangling your name, sir, Marquez on the main story. And in the backup feature, it's written by Ram V, and the backup story's art is by Zermanico. I'm not sure if
Zermanico, yes.
I probably mangled that. But, so, first of all, let me just say, putting Brian Michael Bendis, look, I'm more pro Bendis than not. Of all the things I've read of Bendis, the only thing that has disappointed me is his Action Comics run. Specifically,
yeah, I actually
comics.
like that. So yeah.
Specifically, Action Comics. However, everything else, from his Superman book to his Daredevil work to the Amazing, to the Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, he did 200 some odd issues of that. Daredevil, Avengers, all the stuff, everything else I loved. I haven't read Naomi yet, but I'm going to.
I have, and yes, I like that. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure where you got the idea about. I'm fine with that development with Justice League. So.
Oh no, because Green Lantern wasn't isn't a part of the roster. That's why I thought you'd be upset.
Oh yes, well yes, Green Lantern. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop reading Justice League though.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't. I just meant you're. I should have said disappointed. Slightly disappointed.
Slightly disappointed. Yes.
Is that a better phrasing of your?
But also, just because something goes for the Lanterns may be off somewhere dealing with whatever is going on with Future State or after Future State.
You mean Green Lantern doesn't have to be in every single book for you to enjoy it?
Believe it or not, it helps.
And specifically, not just Hal Jordan. I'm shocked. Seems to be the moment du jour on certain areas of social media. If it ain't Green Lantern or Hal Jordan specifically, we ain't in.
Now, Hal Jordan fans have been, grinding an axe. And again, they have the right to, speak their mind too as fans.
They do.
But where's Kyle Rayner? Where is Kyle?
The character's been in the forefront since 2004. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk how, I've got questions. Where is Kyle? Where's the torchbearer? Where's my favorite character?
I want Kyle too. But let's just talk about this Justice League roster for a second because it's fascinating.
Okay.
We've got, of course, in honor of Steven, who is probably in his Superman pajamas, we have Superman. So, excuse me while I take a drink. Of course, much to somebody's chagrin, not mine, we have Batman. We have Hippolyta, not Wonder Woman.
Interesting.
We have the aforementioned Naomi. We have Black Canary. We have, which I am excited about, Oliver Queen, a.k.a. Green Arrow. And thankfully, Felicity is nowhere in sight. And we have Hawk Girl / woman, depending on what day it is and what DC is deciding to call her. Mm-hmm. And we have Aquaman, of course. And can you smell what the Rock is cooking? Because Black Adam is involved.
Yeah.
That's
caused some waves online too. People are it's like, whoa, Black Adam in the Justice League. So yeah.
I'm fascinated by this roster.
Yeah.
This is like, look, I like the Big Seven as much as anybody, but it's nice to spruce things up, and refresh every now and again. And talk about fans that deserve to gripe. What about Green Arrow fans? He's been nowhere in the books for what, 2 years? 3 years?
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued. And again, that combo is of writer and artist. It's chef kiss, as they say in the kids. Wow. Another book that I'm interested in, of course, it's got my 2 favorite fictional characters of all time. Batman, Superman. Steven and I will be covering that.
I thought you were getting ready to make a joke. I didn't know where you're going with that, but you're serious. Superman and Batman, okay.
Oh, what? You didn't think those were my 2 favorite?
I thought you were going to be a smart aleck.
No, those literally are my 2 favorite fictional characters of all time. That book promises to have some multiverse connotations, Donnie. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the cover actually has Batman and Superman in their vintage or homages to their vintage late 1930s looks.
Oh yes, and that's the one with Sinestro, isn't it?
No, that's a different one shot which we will be reading, but it's along those lines.
Okay. So it doesn't tie that one doesn't tie in.
That won't tie into this, no. But the creative team, for those that are interested, is Jean Lun Yang, who I think wrote Superman versus the Klan, if I'm not mistaken.
Superman smashes the Klan, I believe that's the name of it. Yeah.
Smashes the Klan. I'm sorry. which got rave reviews. And the art is by Ivan Reis, and I mean, like, basically, I gotta send you this cover after the show because it's just so beautiful, and I mean, I could look at it all day. That's what the kids online would call comic porn because it's just so beautiful. Of course, I mean, it goes without saying, I'm going to read Batman, I'm going to read Detective, I'm going to read Superman in action. I'm going to give Wonder Woman a look as well. But one that will be added to my pull list for the very first time, Donnie. First time ever. I've been reading him before in spurts, but now it's going to be a permanent relationship between me and this character. You know, not anything weird, but an actual just, you know, reader.
Wondered where you were going with that.
Character and reader, you know, relationship, not anything, you know.
Okay.
But Nightwing, number 78, because the creative team is Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo is doing the art. And they've done the most recent Suicide Squad issue. And of course, Tom Taylor has written the Injustice comics and Deceased. And I mean, that guy can write the phone book and have somebody draw it. And even though I know what the phone book's all about, I'd probably buy it at a premium price. But I've always enjoyed Nightwing, so that's going to be a pickup for me because when a creator and a character that I like, you know, join forces, it's usually all right. How am I shaking up my book, my list, to accommodate for this ad? But so Donnie, I mean, again, I'm going to check. I'll check out Wonder Woman. Of course, it's Wonder Woman. You know.
Right.
So Donnie, is there anything aside from Green Lantern or Flash that you are going to be reading?
Oh, well, I would definitely be reading Justice League, and I definitely want to pick up some of these one-shots. Like, what I was referencing was Generation Shattered, because that has Sinestro in it, and it also has the original Batman that you're talking about, and it looks like a de-aged Superman. So,
yeah. Oh, we're definitely... that'll be one where I think you, Steven, and I get together.
All right.
And, you know, provided he smartens up and gets better soon. Really, I think secretly, I think Alfred just wanted some more time off. You know, and you know, so get well, Steven.
Yeah, we love you, Steven. Get better, buddy.
We like to grind your gears because we know you're going to be editing to this and listening to it at the same time. So we're definitely going to do that Generations issue. And I think since you're going to be reading Justice League, maybe the three of us will unite for Justice League as well.
All right, sounds like a plan.
On Comics Corner. But until we get those books, we have to get through, and not in a hurried way, but we have to experience, let's say, the two events that are preceding it, one of which is happening right now, which is Endless Winter.
3 for 3.
So, Donnie, give us a little breakdown of the issues we're covering, and let's review them. So what happens in Aquaman?
We are starting with part 4 of Endless Winter. That is Aquaman 66. And let me give you a little bit of the setup here. This part 4, agents of Stag Industries, they've accidentally unleashed the Frost King, which is a character whose real name was Edwald Olafsson. And after Stag Industries, after they accidentally release him, that they're digging around. There's a crater where the Fortress of Solitude used to reside. The Frost King is unleashed, and he then unleashes this brutal snowstorm on the entire planet, and the heroes are battling these waves of frost creatures, and they're severely outnumbered. So no matter how many they take down, there are new waves.
Yeah.
Aquaman 66, it's written by Andy Lanning and Ron Mars. Ron Mars, of course, a legendary Green Lantern writer. Art by Miguel Mendoza. Colors by Ivan Placencia. Letters by Clayton Coles. And by the way, if I'm butchering any names, I'm sorry. There's also a flashback sequence, and we will start with that. The art is by Marco Santucci. Colors by Arif Prianto and Troy Pateri. And so we open up in 10th century Greenland. And this is where the Frost King was human. Again, his name was Edwald. And we talked about last vidcast that his fellow villagers became frightened of his power. And the members of his community, they burned down his house. and the Frost King tried to defend his family, and one of his children was caught in the crossfire. And that kind of unleashed this evil side of him. So this kind of picks up with the Frost King ready to enact his revenge, and he's virtually unstoppable. And so we flash back to the heroes that were trying to confront him in the 10th century, and that was Swamp Thing, Black Adam, Hippolyta, and the Viking Prince. So what did you think of the flashback?
Again, any time we can get more of this story, like I'm fascinated by this proto Justice League, if you will, and I could see myself reading an ongoing series with these characters. I'm enjoying them so much, but what I like that the flashback always does is how it ties into the main story. Mm-hmm. Because we're really talking about, as you said, a guy that will do anything to protect his family. Like, this is the whole reasoning for his thing. It's because of what happened with his family. And that ties in beautifully with Aquaman and what Aquaman's recently going through, because he's, now married and he and Mira have a kid together. And so I think Aquaman is in a unique position, as is, I believe, as is Clark as well, Superman, in the sense that both of those guys have families. And so they can understand what he's going through and his motivations. They may not agree, but
well, yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. By the way, I don't routinely read Aquaman. I usually just read Aquaman in the Justice League title. So it's been a while since I got to read an Aquaman solo book, and I was very pleased with what was going on here. It was my first chance to see Andrina, which is Andy. They refer to her as Andy.
Yeah.
She was actually just born this year. Yeah. And
she's already swimming away. Yeah.
She's already swimming around. And she actually had my favorite quote in the book, which was blah, blah, blah. They actually spelled out that in a word balloon, which I thought was hilarious. But and so, I read a little bit of the background on this, and I saw where Aquaman was previously trepidatious about having a baby. And then Mera accidentally killed Aquaman because she kind of unleashed her power because she was so upset. But he got better, It was just a flesh wound.
As comics do, people seemingly die and then, hey, I'm back.
Yeah. So he was revived by a character called Mother Shark, and now he's back into action, and we see the Aqua family in action. So, however, again, we talk about the frost creatures unleashed by the Frost King. Again, they're across the globe, and Aquaman is, of course, concerned about the temperatures dropping and how that's going to affect, everything basically under the water. Yeah. So he decides that they need an army to help them, and he decides to go enlist the help of the fire trolls, which was an interesting development in this issue. So what did you think of the fire trolls?
I'm fascinated by their look. I mean, they're interesting looking, but also kind of shows you all the characters of the species and that we haven't seen from Atlantis in that area as of yet, right?
Right.
And the banter with Aquaman. He's like, I'm married to what did he say? The queen of the fire trolls? He goes,
yeah, the queen of the fire trolls.
I never expected that when I said I do. And I love the banter between Aquaman and Mera, and they're in the midst of all this world-altering chaos, right? This endless winter.
4 for 4.
I like I did that. They're worried about can we drop the baby off with so and so, or who's going to babysit the baby while we're off doing this? Because obviously they're not comfortable with taking her along for the ride, right? If they can avoid it. So that kind of made me laugh in the sense that we're dealing with this earth-shattering event, and it's like the most mundane, everyday conversation two people can have. I kind of like when they do those kind of things.
Yeah. The dialogue, people like Andy Lanning and Ron Mars, they did their homework. I think I've said that several times on this. I do want to say, like you pointed out, I like all the textures of the underwater, the buildings and even the fire trolls. And if I can draw a parallel to Green Lantern, which, by the way, we do a podcast, and that's called the Emerald Echo Podcast on iTunes and Podbean.
We do.
Drink time. But I just want to echo your sentiment of the fact that we're seeing, new species and new places with, Green Lantern. I always like the fact when they go and explore a new planet, or there's a callback to a previously used, race of aliens or whatever. With Aquaman, seeing some, new places in the water like that, and seeing a new species like the fire trolls, I thought that was interesting. So
absolutely. And that was probably my favorite page of the book, where
the 2-page spread,
the standoff, the standoff with the fire at the end, where they're banded together and they're they're
charging.
Yeah. And I will say, as a regular reader of the Aquaman book, which unfortunately it won't be part of the at least the initial wave of Infinite Frontier books. There won't be an Aquaman book in March, unfortunately. But
yeah, I've heard this. Yes.
Hopefully he'll be back soon in his own title. But I'm a regular reader of Aquaman, and I think Andy Lanning and Ron Mars, came in and they fit seamlessly. It's I never once thought, oh, this is a new creative. It just flowed so well with the feel of Aquaman previously. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't jarring. So I thought it was well done. Anything else, or you want to rate this issue?
No, I just want to say that I like how much of an equal Mera is to Aquaman, even though he's Indeed. The title character. Yeah. Indeed. I really like how they function. You and I have talked before that I'm not somebody who, reads comics a lot for relationships, but I do like that pairing.
Yeah, because they work very well. When it's done naturally and doesn't overshadow the story, it's fun.
Yes. So, yes, I very much like that issue, and it was nice to kind of catch up with Aquaman, because it's been a while since I read a solo Aquaman story. So,
all right, so then let's rate this thing. So, the story out of 5?
Oh, I will have to say definitely a 5, and I'm going to give the art a 5 too. I like both the flashback art and the main story art. Again, very different, backgrounds, but both achieved exactly what they set out to do.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna agree. 5 out of 5, both writing and art. So another top-notch addition to the Endless Winter chapter. Pantheon, if you will.
Yeah.
All right.
You're just you're not missing any shots on goal today, buddy.
I'm milking it for all it's worth today. But all right. So the next issue was Justice League, correct?
Yes, this is part 5 of Endless Winter, and that is Justice League number 58. And back in the 10th century, again, we get the flashback part of the story. We see the 4 heroic members of the squad trying to stop the Frost King in Greenland, with Adam coming to a refugee camp with an air of, kind of arrogance.
Not me, Black Adam.
Black Adam, yeah. Yes, so Adam went back to the 10th century. He's like, I got this.
Wait just a minute.
Actually, what they're trying to do, the heroes here, well, I should say not all of the heroes. Black Adam has taken the Frost King's family and put them in the way of the Frost King's barrage. And so, no, excuse me. That's not right. The other heroes have put
Wonder
Black
Woman,
Adam.
Swamp Thing, and
yes, they put
Thor.
Yeah, they put his family in his way to try to reconnect with his humanity.
Yes,
and I really liked that image.
And it was very emotional too.
It really was, and I like the idea that they weren't just going to say, "Okay, let's go in all fist and fury. Let's see what we can do to solve this problem." Using the emotions of this man, let's try to get to Edwald behind the Frost King. But then, what happens? Black Adam flies in all fist and fury, and is like, he saw the opening when Edwald was kind of pondering his family being in his way, and that just kind of reignites the Frost King's power.
Yeah, Uh, you know, and I love how they build it up before he comes in, guns a blazing, so to speak.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
he's always ready for the fight, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna screw this up. And sure enough,
And sure enough, yeah,
uh,
it's whenever you get one of those kind of anti-heroes in with the heroes, you just never know when they're going to choose their opportunity to just screw up the plans.
and the best thing is though, I can still see The Rock doing this. Like, now every time I see Black Adam, I just picture The Rock, and I'm like, yeah, I can see it.
Could you just see him turning around to, Hippolyta and Swamp Thing? And it's like, oh, did I make a mistake? Is that what you think? And before they answer, he's like, it doesn't matter what you think.
or when they're like, when she says, no, we're trying to talk him down. If he just turns and gives her the eyebrow.
We're going to have to see the eyebrow. That's a given.
I want Ron Mars to tell the artist to draw the people's eyebrow on Black Adam in one of the last 3 parts of this story, please.
Yes.
So I know it's too late now, but I hope it's there. But and again, I like that to me it's especially in the flashbacks, the perfect balance of the emotion and trying to again, I think it's trying to show the audience that underneath this creature, facade, there's a human being in there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having all that crazy action that you expect from a Justice League title.
Yeah. And I will say, I saw some comments from Ron Mars who said he just wanted to tell a fun story. There is a little setup of the future that he has talked about. We don't know exactly what that is yet. But it wasn't one of these things where, you hear writers come in or you see the solicits and they say, this is going to change the DC universe forever. This is just, just kind of a fun story that may have some small ramifications. Yeah. But that's why I recommend this. Again, it's only 9 issues. And so it's not such a huge commitment, but it's just, again, this is just a fun story. So,
yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And in terms of the present day, I think it was who was on Watchtower duty.
Bobo.
Yeah, and was it John that came in?
It was John, and by the way, I have got to say this. This was definitely my favorite. Yeah, my favorite out of the 3 books. This was an absolute wonderful showcase for John Stewart.
Yeah.
He made numerous constructs. But the thing that I really liked is we see his humanity here on display. He saves a family from the cold. The wife says, yeah, please go after my husband who is trapped. John goes and saves the husband. Yeah. And the whole thing is kind of punctuated by John reuniting this family and then pulling them in a reindeer-pulled sleigh construct, which I thought was just, I love the whimsy there. So, yeah.
But it also shows, like, and I think this goes back to John's military background, the calm and confidence in a crisis. Like, he may be, pooping himself internally, like in his head, oh my God, can we overcome this? He may be thinking those things. But outwardly, he projects a calm and confidence so that the people that he's trying to save, at least directly in this scenario, are reassured. And of all the Green Lantern, I think John is the best at that.
Yeah, John is very much a natural leader, and you see that he's very contemplative about his own life as he's doing this. But this was, to me, proof that John can hold his own title.
Oh, absolutely.
And that he's just going to be just fine as we go forward with John as a lead on a Green Lantern.
I can't wait. And knowing the fact that Jeffrey Thorne loves John Stewart, like he loves John, like the way I love Batman and Superman, I think is the way Jeff Thorne loves John Stewart. And if that's the case, can April can Future State get here so that I can read those books and get a primer? But yeah, no, this was a great issue for John. We do see the rest of the league as well, and I think John said, "You guys got here fast," and he goes, "Yeah, that's what we do." And then the
Right.
Flash says,
Except for Batman.
especially when one of us carries Batman. And by the way, that was me.
I like the subtle shade that the Flash threw at Batman. It's like, yeah, we're all quick at getting here, except for that guy.
but I love the relationship with between the Flash and Batman, because there is a respect there, but there's also the jabbing. And Flash is, even though they're pretty much contemporary in age in terms of in the comics, Flash is like there's that little brother, big brother kind of relationship between the two of them, and I do love it. And so that was a funny moment. But yeah, you're right. It was a John story, and again, John contemplating family is also ties in with the flashback about the family trying to get through to the Frost King.
Right.
So
yeah.
There's that.
So yeah, there's
always that tie between the backup, or sorry, the flashback and the current day story.
Yeah. So and we talked the previous episode of this vidcast about the Flash talking to the other heroes about how do you balance work and life, how do you balance being a superhero with being a family person, and so family seems to be a very big theme here. So that's very interesting to me, and I also like to say this story, the kind of the crescendo is the Justice League confronting part of the Frost King's army, and I just have to say this: when the Frost King shows up outside of the Hall of Justice, which it's always great to see the Hall of Justice. Do you remember when Vader, and I mean Big Van Vader, not Darth Vader, used to come to WCW with that big the helmet on, the shoulder pads and everything?
Yeah.
That's what that reminded me of, when he had like the big horns and just standing there looking all huge. That's what this reminded me of. So anyway, flashback moment there. John actually smashes the Frost King in this, but we learn that it's just an avatar. It's not the actual Frost King. So
yeah. So I mean, let's do what we usually do. So what was your, because I had two favorite panels in this, or favorite pieces of art in this book. The one both you mentioned, which was when he smashes the Frost Giant, and when he pulls that family with the sleigh construct.
Yes.
Those were my two favorites. What about you?
It was definitely John with all the constructs. And watching him reunite the family, all of those panels, seeing the husband and the wife come back together. Again, it shows how much that, John is human, and he's not just, a military type who's out there to, stomp somebody's skull in. He's a true hero. And he's a complex hero. And so I really liked how that looked. I just liked that whole sequence. So
agreed. All right. So story and art. What's your rating?
First of all, if I could give the story higher than 5, I would. I mean, it's a 5+. And art, same way. I just, so far this story has just gone along at a very fast pace. And I really like how this is unfolding.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I know we sound like homers, but this story is just that good so far. It's 5 out of 5 for the story and 5 out of 5 for the art.
Dope. That's a homer. Anyway, so
not that homer, and not the one that wrote the Iliad either. Sports homer is what I mean. All right, so the last issue was Teen Titans Special, correct?
Yeah, Teen Titans Special #1, and that's Endless Winter Part 6. So, and again, we pick up the fact that, again, this goes back to the 10th century in Greenland, and the Frost King, again, he is just deluging the heroes with all this power. And we see that the Frost King, again, his name is Edwald. He used to be human. And again, the villagers tried to attack him. And we see here that during the fight with the heroes, and again, I'm talking about Hippolyta and Black Adam and the Viking Prince, that we get the answer to who was in the ice. You know how we talked about that last episode that we thought maybe it was the heroes? It actually turns out to be Edward's family. That the ice opens up and they fall into the ice. So yeah, what did you think of that opening sequence? The flashback.
It's an interesting development, I'll tell you that, because my question now is, can they be somehow brought back?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this going to end with somehow him being reunited with his family, be it a whole family of ice people or frost people, or can they somehow be brought back as their human selves? And will that be the catalyst? Will the Justice League proper try again to appeal with his family, and will that be the catalyst to stop this guy?
Yeah. And there was, by the way, a really emotional scene there when the family they were surrounded by some of the, frost creatures, and before the ground opened up, Hippolyta was going for them to try to rescue them, but the tide of battle was turning towards the Frost King, and she had to make the decision of, do I go help them against the Frost King and maybe try to end the whole thing, or do I save the family? And she chose going after the Frost King. Right, so you saw that kind of battle-hardened attitude that Hippolyta has.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So that was an interesting development, yeah.
And you wonder where Wonder Woman gets it.
Yeah. Right? And by the way, one more time we have the Snickers ad in the middle of the book, and so
you again?
Yeah, and here we are in this snow-covered Greenland, and all of a sudden here's Batman again with a Snickers ad, and I'm like, wait a minute, we're in Gotham, and oh no, that's the ad again. Okay.
We're gonna take bets, everybody, about how many times Donnie's gonna get confused by that.
Put the ad in the back of the book, DC.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved all the flashback stuff. The main story was kind of... it was the weakest one so far, I think, the main story. I found.
I really liked it. Now, again, the following story, now, and again, full disclosure here, I don't always read the Teen Titans. It's kind of, hit or miss with me. Sometimes I read them for a while.
Yeah.
And this particular itineration of the Titans, again, it's very different than...
It's not my favorite, which color...
Yeah, from what I remember from a couple years ago, the last time that I read the Titans. So we see Crush and Wally West and Beast Boy and Donna Troy, which is a favorite of mine, and Red Arrow and a character named Roundhouse. Can you tell me a little bit more about Roundhouse, Adam?
He is... kind of a mystery. There's not much his origins are really unknown. From what I remember, he was at one point an antagonist of the Teen Titans, and then once they sort of fought him and subdued him, he's he would perpetrate things to sort of get famous on the DC equivalent of YouTube.
Right.
So yeah. He'd go out and cause all kinds of chaos for the purpose of getting insta famous or whatever, right?
Well, that ties into the story here, doesn't it?
What do they call it? Be a social media influencer? Is that what they call them nowadays? If you're popular on social media, you're an influencer.
You're an influencer, yeah. Does that make us influencers?
Probably not. Nobody knows who we are.
But I like the fact that, again, that ties in because the Titans are kind of sitting around the tower. They're not in the battle. They're being told, you're hanging back here. They're watching some children. They're serving some food. Yeah. And eventually they do get to go into the battle. And we see what seems to be a new character. And when I bought this at my local comic shop, they told me that actually this book has become really popular because of that character. And it's actually getting a higher secondary market price than the sell price on the cover. So
really,
yeah. Evidently, like I said, this is a character that's gotten really popular. So in a short amount of time. So again, her name is Summer Zaid, which I guess she's the Black Ice character that they're referencing on the cover.
Yes.
And she says that actually she follows Roundhouse on social media. So
yeah. So there you go. He's an influencer.
Yeah, he is an influencer.
I mean, I like the bit when Flash and Cyborg come in and
through the boom tube, yes.
Yeah, and Flash wants to check in on Wallace,
right?
not to be confused with Wally.
Oh.
Gotta love the New 52 because look, now there's two versions of Wally. If you weren't confused by the Legacy of the Flash before, you sure will be now. Yeah. But and so it goes to their back and forth where Kid Flash wants to be thought of as his own hero, but Flash, still behaves like the mentor / parent would, and not that he's his parent, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And check up on him, make sure he's doing okay. So that sort of push and pull was interesting to me.
You do get some good dialogue there if you like, the kind of, impetuous teens or teens who are trying to find their place as heroes. Yeah. There is some of that here.
When Donna Troy comes in and is talking to the rest of the Titans about their past and the mistakes that they've made in the past and hoping that they don't recreate those mistakes, those were the really good moments. But and so those moments in the flashbacks are the main positives of the issue. Mm. I think by and large of all of them, this was the least impactful.
Yes, this was more character driven.
Important to the overall story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now it does end with what looks like a very important event, and that is Barry and Donna deciding to go for help with the Amazons in Themyscira.
Yes,
and that's kind of how things end, with a really funny image of Barry saying kind of stop, don't shoot. It's just it's me. We need your help.
Yeah. That was actually my favorite image of the book because it was so detailed but so funny at the same time.
Yeah.
It had the detail, the epicness of the final to be continued kind of shot, but then the humor of the Flashes. So.
By the way, all these books $3.99 from DC Comics. Please go out and support the comic book industry.
Yeah. And so let's wrap up because then I have to make one quick addition to the news item that I forgot. So in terms of grading for this issue, story and art.
Going to give the story about a 4.5. Again, a little bit slower, more character driven, and not characters, like Crush, who, I'm okay with her. These weren't my favorite characters, all of them. So again, but still a great installment.
Yeah.
I did like it, 4.5. Same thing with the art. Wasn't quite as good as the previous two installments, but again, very high quality, 4.5 there too.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 3.5 in terms of story. This iteration of the Teen Titans just really isn't my thing. I've tried reading them before. I just can't really get into them that much. But it was still, like I said, there were elements that I did like about it. The art, I give a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
The art was very solid, as I've always been. So, still good. Not everything has to be... just because it's not a perfect grade doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. So there's not, I know in today's society it's either the greatest thing in the world or absolute garbage. But that's how Twitter rates things. Let me actually rephrase. That's how Twitter rates.
And Star Wars fans a lot of times too.
Yeah.
They always say nobody hates Star Wars fans like other Star Wars fans.
And a certain segment of DC film fans, which
there's always toxic elements of fandoms.
Exactly. So that brings us to a close on these issues 4 through 6 of Endless Winter. The quick correction I wanted to make regarding the comics news that we discussed about is, how there are a lot of titles that are shipping 2 times a month?
Yes.
Currently?
Yes.
It seems like all the titles are going back to once a month shipping.
Oh, okay.
Which my wallet will prefer. Now.
Likewise.
Now, there's a caveat here in the sense that titles such as Batman, Detective, Action, Superman, and Justice League, instead of $3.99, will carry a $4.99 price tag. But each of those has a backup story and is 40 pages long. So think about this. If you were getting action in Superman, or let's use Detective and Batman as an example, because of Bendis, action wasn't shipping twice a month or whatever. But so if you were getting Batman and Detective before, or Flash is a good example, because Flash was a twice a month book. Right. So if you were getting Flash, you were paying $3.99 for, essentially with Snickers ads and all, right, which is essentially was a 22-page story. You're now getting, so you'd pay twice a month. That would be, let's round it up to $4. That'd be $8 a month for 44 pages, right, of story.
Yeah.
You're getting, basically, we're now getting for the flat to go back to the Batman example. So for Batman, right,
mm-hmm,
you're getting now for $4.99. Basically, so for $5, you're getting, essentially an extra 10 pages in a backup story.
Fewer titles, but more story in each individual release.
Yeah, so I'll take that.
Yeah, so your dollars actually stretch farther, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you. And Batman, Detective, Superman Action, Justice League will all have a backup story. The $3.99 books will just be the regular story, but those ones with a $4.99 price tag will have a backup story. So in Justice League, it'll be Justice League Dark. In Action, it'll be another or with characters in Action and Superman, it'll be characters within the the Superman world, and likewise with Batman. So I think it's better. More bang for my buck. I'll always take. So there it is.
Yeah.
But that's my final thought on that. Donnie, our next episode of the Endless Winter reviews will probably take place after Christmas, because there's 2 more issues before Christmas, and then usually our record date happens on a Friday, and this year that'll be Christmas.
But there's also one issue after Christmas that comes out December 29th.
So we'll just wait till we have all 3 and then do another 3.
Yes.
But until then, Donnie, if our viewers want to talk to you about any of the comics we reviewed today, or ones that we haven't, where can they do that?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast if you would like to talk about Green Lantern,
right,
or anything comic book related. You may find me there. Sure. Hit me up. I will do my best to respond to you. And as always, you can find me on the Emerald Echo podcast, available on iTunes and Podbean.
Now, if you want to follow me on social media, you can at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter. And then we also have the Multiverse Musings podcast network on Facebook. Go there, ask for permission to join the group, and I will happily add you, and we can continue the conversation there. We also have the Multiverse Musings podcast network Twitter page at MMNPDC on Twitter. So those are the avenues that you can find me, and we can continue the conversation there. If you want to bug Steven and tell him to get well and then hurry up and make our muffins and or chocolate chip cookies and or other baked goods that we would like, you can at SteveBob1984.
We do miss you, buddy.
You get well soon.
Yeah.
So, until next time, we hope that you will continue to support the local comic book shop and the comic book industry as a whole by either buying physical or digital copies of the books that you enjoy. And until the next Comics Corner, we want you to remember that the endless winter is forever. from the first time Black Adam makes an impulsive decision that screws up the Justice League's plan to the last. So long, everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.